who I guess supposedly allegedly was the person that they called in the situation to, I guess, a friend that worked at Ordo Chalempag Elementary School. He was brought in, but he was not charged with any terrorizing to the public school or while that individual was there. Is there any civil side that the government has against maybe Mr. Kinata at this point for the days missed, the amount of salaries that the government has to pay, so we won't have this repeat stuff? I mean, kind of like the O.J. case when he found not guilty of murder, but in the civil case, he was responsible for that murder.
Yeah. Well, I have followed as closely as I could what's happened there in the newspaper, but I don't know that there's a nexus between what Mr. Kinata did and the closing of the school.
Of the school, yeah.
And now, of course, closing of the school seems warranted because from now on people are going to deal in an abundance of caution when there's any possibility of violence at the schools. But if the threat was made to an employee of the school at school, and there's some heavy-duty criminal liability, one has to wonder, on the civil side, one has to wonder how much of a judgment against Mr. Kinata would be worth.
Absolutely. Theft of copper wire and vandalism in schools?
That's a tough one, but it seems like there can't be that many dealers in copper wire on the island, and there's no sense in selling it. I mean, stealing it if you can't sell it to someone. And before I came over, I looked up the law on the selling scrap, and it's a pretty complicated or a pretty comprehensive regulatory scheme. But it would seem that some routine checks on scrap dealers, perhaps some surprise checks on scrap dealers, ought to yield a little something here. If there's no market for the scrap, there will be no more thefts.
But you know, we've got to start another cycle of police, because I think we're down to, you know, every day there's other people implicated in this Blue House situation. Bob, Merry Christmas to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey, join me tomorrow morning. The Buzz is List 63, your tomorrow radio station, for more talk. We'll talk more about this, whatever else comes to mind. Good night for now.
Closed caption.